It is the final weekend of the Major League Baseball regular season. We get a little extension with that Monday doubleheader, but it also means final show for us here on First Pitch. WagerTalk TV, Dan Alexander with you, and we wouldn't want to end it any other way than with the A-team joining us here. That's right, Bryan, Leonard, Steve, Merril, ready to rock, guys. And even with just one set left for all these teams, two in the case of the Braves and the Mets, there is a lot of drama coming down this weekend. Bryan, I'm going to start with you, and let's take a look at this Mets and Milwaukee Brewers game. As I just look at this one, and the question mark for me going into it is at the end of the year here, Bryan. You know, you think about rest versus rust throughout the baseball season. Having a shocking 2 days off that weren't planned for the Mets. They now have, a 2-game set looming over their head that they have to play after this weekend. That can't be a positive for this team as they're taking on the Brewers here. Do you kind of have that same concern heading into this one? And how would you maybe look to bet this one, Bryan?
Yeah, I agree. This is one of the reasons why I want to speak about this game, because as you mentioned, the Braves and the Mets have a doubleheader they got to make up on Monday. The Braves go into it, the Mets go into it up a game over the Braves, so they got to be feeling a little bit better, thinking that if they split the doubleheader, they're in pretty good shape on Monday. But I've got some concerns here. First of all, as you mentioned, they haven't played in 2 days. That's not something you usually have when you're playing your regular season baseball games. Sean Manaea is on the mound, and he's been terrific as of late. But he's got a 3.29 ERA, but his expected ERA is 3.73. But as I mentioned, he's been very good as of late. He did give up 3 runs last time out against the Phillies, but it still qualified for a quality start. And he had 2 more of those before, including Toronto and Washington. So he's really only had 1 bad start in pretty much the last month and a half. So he's been on his game. His extension is in the 95th percentile, expected batting average in the 70th, and strikeout percentage in the 70th. So he's been pretty good. He's I don't know why he's bounced back. The last few years, they've been using him in the bullpen. They've been using him as a starter. This year, in all 31 games, he started. Last year, in 37 games, he only started 10 of those. So they've decided this year he's deserving of being in the rotation. He's been very good all year long. I do have some concerns here that he's going up against a Milwaukee team who's free and easy right now. They've already clinched the division. They pretty much know where they're going to be. The Mets have the pitching matchup as Frankie Montas just hasn't been that good this year. He comes in with a 4.85 ERA, expected ERA of 4.62. You can look at it as a savant page. Fastball velocity is in the 70th percentile, but everything else is worse than league average. That said, money has been coming in on Milwaukee. I sent this to you earlier, and all I've seen is Milwaukee money since then.
Yeah.
I prefer the Milwaukee side, but it's getting to the point now where we're losing a lot of value. You were catching a good plus number before, and now it's getting close to pick 'em. Still like Milwaukee, as long as you can get them at plus anything. But if you can't, it's unfortunately not enough to make my card today.
Yeah, those plus 110s gone rather quickly. That is for sure. I think we're all kind of seeing that series heading in with just so many question marks. Why would you want to lay money in that matchup? You take the plus money and you run and go with that. Bri, the chat already giving you shout outs. They know you're pumped up for hockey season that's right around the corner. So even though first pitch is ending, don't worry. Bryan Leonard going to be on that Puck Time show in this very same time slot coming your way rather soon here. Other games we're going to talk about. We just hit Mets Milwaukee there. Steve's going to break down Padres and Diamondbacks right now. We're going to have some best bets coming in Texas Rangers taking on the LA Angels and the O's and the Twins. And then I just have some questions for these guys alongside the questions in the chat. I want to take a look at the Dodgers and the Rockies. I think an interesting travel note after some partying in that one. And we'll, of course, talk Braves Royals because that has playoff implications for both leagues. But Steve, let's talk Padres, Diamondbacks. It seems like all of these webs are weaving together because, yes, this is a big series for the Diamondbacks, but it's also now a big series as it was for the Mets and the Braves as far as the wild card spots are concerned. You kind of have to wait till Monday until we know what the final standing is going to be and the dust settles. But the Diamondbacks are going to have their eyes on this one. That's for sure. I know Bryan's cat is going to have his eyes on this one as well. But with that doubleheader going, you think the D-backs are maybe looking ahead a little bit to what will happen there? Or is it just full steam ahead? We have a 3-game set. We need to stack as many games as possible. How do you see game one shaking off against the Padres team that made the Dodgers wait a little bit longer for their clinching than maybe some folks expected?
Yeah, we're going to look at a little late night baseball here for Friday. Padres, Diamondbacks. San Diego has clinched a wild card spot. They cannot catch the Dodgers for the division, so they're really not playing for that much this weekend, but Arizona has a ton to play for in this 3-game series, as they are currently just 1 game above the Braves and, of course, tied with the Mets for that last wild card spot. And there are some extra games to be played there. So Arizona needs to keep winning. But as we know, these must-win situations do not translate necessarily to betting opportunities. In fact, I think San Diego will be the loose and relaxed team in this game on tonight in Arizona at 9:40 Eastern. But I'm going to look at the total actually as the play. It opened 9. Darvish was announced as the starter. And there's actually a pitching change there. So now it's down to 8.5 across the board. And 9 is such a key number. When we get 8.5, I always start looking for reasons for the over. And I think maybe we have it here. These are two offenses that are very capable. In fact, San Diego's offensive numbers on the road this year have been some of the best in baseball. And Arizona's often had a very hitter-friendly ballpark. Chase Field has been pretty hitter-friendly over the years. And they did put up 8 runs in their last game on Wednesday. But you look at these two starters, both have ERAs in the 3 range for the season. But over the past 7 starts for each of them, Darvish a 4.0 ERA. Of course, he's only had 4 starts back since being out in late May. He's been kind of dicey since 3 mediocre starts and 1 really good start. Meanwhile, Merril Kelly, no relation, 2 L's. He got it wrong. Merril Kelly has a 4.7 ERA over the past month going back to mid-August. So it does look like he's wearing down. And got to point out, this is a battle of the Merrills. NL Rookie of the Year favorite over Paul Skeens even. Merrill Jackson, he got it wrong, 2 L's, or Jackson Merril Kelly. Boy, I can't wait to see Jackson Merrill face Merril Kelly tonight. It'll be the best matchup in the history of baseball. That Ohtani ball might be worth $500,000, but that'll be the matchup. That's the ball you want to get. All seriousness, though, I like the over. I think there'll be some runs tonight. Over 8.5. We get some value now that Darvish is on the mound, but this isn't the same Darvish we've seen in years past. He was injured earlier. He's been very mediocre since returning, and Merril Kelly appears to be wearing down. So take a look at over 8.5 between the Padres and D-backs. And don't forget to click subscribe, click that bell for instant alerts. College football top 25 videos loaded. NFL Fade the Public will be up this weekend. And there's a ton of free play baseball videos here on WagerTalk TV as well. So comment below, hit subscribe, and thumbs up, like as well. And check out my page, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, for some strong football and baseball best bets, 31-12. And that includes several extra inning losses. And we're still on a 31-12 baseball run.
Merril breaking down Merril, taking on Merril. I feel like that's Beetlejuice. I don't know if Merril's just going to pop up behind you in a pinstripe tux or what, but I love the breakdown there from our man Steve Merril. WT.buzz/SM is where you can find him over at WagerTalk.com. We got some great deals going right now. We'll tell you about a little bit later in the show. While you're hanging out with us, hit that like button if you haven't already, folks. Subscribe. Best time of the year. Marco D'Angelo was talking about it yesterday on Wager Talk today, that we're on the precipice of having MLB going. You know, NBA isn't crazy far in the future. NHL just a few days away at this point, as the preseason has already dropped the puck there. While, of course, football is going on. Best time of the year to be a sports fan. Hell of a time to partner up with these experts who are cashing over and over across these different leagues. Bri, one of these games I want to talk to about with you is this Dodgers and Rockies game, because last week when you were on, we talked about the whole, you just fade the clincher theory, you know, and you have to do it. If you're going to do it, you have to do all of them, right? It's like playing Wong teasers. You have to either live by the sword or die by the sword. One of the notes that I think you interestingly pointed out is there's a difference between a team that's maybe clinching for the first time in 13 years, like what happened with the Phillies, versus a team who, hey, this is just business as usual. And that's what you're seeing with the Dodgers. They get another NL West title. I believe it's like 11 out of the last 12, something like that. But the interesting note that you have to add into it is after the party happened, whether it's a big celebration or just, keep the nose to the grindstone, now they have to go. And even if there's one or two guys who partied a little bit hard in that lineup, they have to play a game at altitude as well. So you're already not feeling 100%. You're already feeling a little bit sleeper, and now you're playing in some thinner air. Does that factor in at all to you? Anything for you on this Dodgers and Rockies game? Because I think it's because of where they're traveling makes it a little bit more interesting than maybe it would be.
Yeah, I've told this story before in regards to that. I had a friend that worked in a retail shop, and when the Cleveland Indians had won the playoffs, got to the playoffs, and they were so excited because it's been forever for Cleveland, back for our fans. And he was working in one of the shops, and one of the players, the catcher, Tony Fernandez, not Tony Fernandez, but one of the players came in, and he goes, "Man, I'm surprised to see you up this early in the morning." He goes, "Oh, what a party last night. Oh, we were so wasted." Because I can't believe I got to get up and shop for my wife or whatever. But anyway, he said that there was a huge party. So he calls me up, obviously knowing that I bet for a living, and tells me all about it. So I put out a play on Cleveland. Unfortunately, Cleveland sent their starter for the following game out early. So he was already there. He didn't compete in the party, and he threw a shutout, and they lost 1-0. So
Wow.
So Cleveland won 1-0. So it got me thinking. I go, well, even if you get the greatest information in the world, doesn't mean you've got a winner. But I've kept that in mind, obviously, because it cost me money in the past. But yeah, it's something you always got to keep into account. Right now, the Dodgers have not announced who their starters are going to be. Half the season, I'm not sure the Dodgers have known who their starters are going to be because of all the injuries they have. They are playing in Colorado, and if you would think that they would have a major advantage playing here, but we've talked about in the past, if you're going to play Colorado, you play Colorado at home. Without knowing who's going for the Dodgers, I would assume it's going to be more of a bullpen game, regardless of who they throw out there. So, if I'm looking at anything, I'm looking towards the Rockies. But as you said, this is a regular occurrence for the Dodgers. Sure, they had the nice game yesterday when they were able to party, but they still got some work to do here, and they're just going to try to get through. A lot of these teams, if you've been watching the box scores, the teams that are fighting for the playoffs basically are playing their regular lineups. The others are mixing and matching as the game goes on, like we see so much anymore. So if you've got guys that are playing, they don't start against lefties, chances are they'll play against them at this point of the season. And the same way with the righty lefties. So a lot more players getting a chance to play in these games. So you've got to keep that in mind. You may get a guy who's very good, and he may not play the full game. That is my concern with Ohtani as we go forward. He's already hit the 50-50. I know he's just DHing, but why would they even bother to play him if he could get hurt? Some of the other players, Mookie Betts has had some injury problems. So you've got to realize the Dodgers may not be throwing out one of their better lineups in this series.
Yeah, maybe they're undecided because they're going to just have like a breathalyzer in the clubhouse, and they'll just go down the line and be like, all right, who do we have ready to go here today? Steve, before we're going to touch upon next this Braves and Royals series because it has major implications as well. But playing at Coors Field, you don't know how much you're going to be getting Ohtani, and maybe, sure, they maybe saved a pitcher or two or whatever, but you're always going to have high totals here. So could it be sleepy bats? Like naturally, you always have value towards an under when you're talking about playing at Coors Field. I see that 11.5. Could maybe the party translate to not quite swinging too great at the plate? I know we don't want to fade a Dodgers offense, but I think maybe if I was looking for the layoff fade, maybe that's the way that I would go toward and look towards the under in that game. Any thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, because I mean, the offensive lineup is your consistent factor for most games, right? So if everyone's like hungover, partying, or distracted, that's going to affect several players. Whereas that starting pitcher is off every 4 or 5 days; they're always zoned in. And the moral to Bryan's story was that the starting pitcher was ready to go when the rest of the team wasn't. So maybe LA is trying to find out the most sober guy to put on the mound tonight, and that's why it's undecided. I will say this, though. I hope there wasn't a big celebration. I don't know if there was or not. Maybe you guys saw one, but I mean, the Dodgers were expected to run away with this division. So if you had told me they weren't going to clinch until the final week of the regular season,
True.
I think that would have been a disappointment in the preseason. So I would hope they've got bigger fish to fry. And as far as the layoff and the rest factor, this is the third year that we've had this playoff format with the extended wild card round. We used to have that single elimination game for several years, which I hated. You play 162 games and you let teams play one game. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Cut the season down to 150 and have an extra round of the playoffs. I mean, that would be the solution. But we do have to point out that the last 2 years with this current format, the teams that have had the rest have not performed well. In fact, I went back and looked the other day. If you take the Houston Astros out of the equation, Houston's had a bye the last 2 years, and they've advanced to the league finals both times. All other teams with the bye have gone 5-18 the last 2 years. 5-18 straight up with a bye if you take the Astros out. And the Dodgers have underperformed. So you do wonder how that's going to affect these teams, maybe if they take it differently this year. But I do think it's a good point you guys bring up that there will be some rest this weekend, probably from the Dodgers offensive lineup.
Great breakdown there, man. Just absolute gold on the final edition here of First Pitch. Give these guys a like. Check them out over at WagerTalk.com because the fun doesn't stop just because we're not going live here anymore. Single game videos still coming your way from these guys throughout the postseason. You can get their client plays right now over at WagerTalk.com. Steve, I'm going to throw this back your way. Braves and Royals. We keep alluded to how many implications there are and how many different storylines are weaving throughout this final weekend. Just how MLB wanted it, I'm sure. But this one is a series that has huge implications in both leagues. Now, one of the pictures is much clearer, and that's on the side of the Royals. Really, the Royals could clinch a playoff spot is as soon as the start of this matchup here. Whereas the Braves, yes, they want to stack these wins, but really what they're looking to do is put themselves in a position to do the same against the Mets when they face off on Monday. But no partying will be able to be done for the Braves this weekend until that doubleheader goes. So Royals full steam ahead, and Braves kind of have two series that they're having to focus on here because of that weather that rolled through. Interesting handicap here, man. Braves Royals. Any thoughts for you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, the weather that rolled through, because I think we have to somewhat handicap what a distraction that storm might have been. Mm-hmm. It was going right over Atlanta last night after it barreled over Jacksonville. And I saw, you talk about an interesting stat. As I was going to bed last night, I'm watching the weather. This is the first time since the 1800s that a major hurricane has hit the state of Georgia, not Atlanta, the state of Georgia. And I was like, that can't be right. They're on the coast. How is that possible? But it does. It always hits Florida or hits South Carolina, Charleston, Wilmington, North Carolina. First time since the 1800s, a named hurricane, a major hurricane, has hit the state of Georgia, or a major hurricane. Maybe that's a 3 or higher. So that kind of puts in perspective how crazy this is. And I know it's going to be clear today. They canceled the game yesterday. And as you said, the Braves still have 5 games to go. Every other team has 3 except for the Mets. So I do worry about a distraction here. And, you get a pretty good Kansas City team at a sizable underdog price here. So I would be careful with this game tonight. A lot of uncertainty for me, but the Royals might be worth an underdog flyer here, especially if the Braves have some distractions. And by the way, I do think it distracts the home team more. Kansas City's been locked up in a hotel or whenever they got there. Atlanta's got their family, their houses, their homes. I would be careful with the Braves in this first game tonight.
I completely agree. I think that's the concern for me and why I wanted to get both of your guys' thoughts on this one because, Bryan, I heard you, agreeing and I saw you nodding in agreement as far as just the wrinkle that the whole storm has thrown into, obviously, series for both of these teams, but really handicapping anything on that side of the United States right now. So before we get best bets for the folks here, we'll talk Texas and LA Rangers with Bryan. Steve's got a play for you in the Orioles and the Twins. What's your take on heading into this series with the Braves and Royals that just huge implications both ways for these clubs?
Yeah, it definitely is. And not only the players' situation, but the fans. You can't expect them to have their normal home field advantage because everybody there has got to deal with whatever's been left over from the storm. So it's low on that priority poll, even though, the Braves are fighting for that last wild card spot. You may not see as many fans or as enthusiastic as they've been in the past. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but from a starting pitcher standpoint, I much prefer Fried over Singer. Singer's a guy that we faded a lot this year. In fact, even his expected ERA right now is still, even though he's gotten hit pretty hard lately, is still not to where it should be. So there still is more negative regression there. You got a Kansas City team right now. They're pretty set in where they need to be. So they'll be playing free and easy here, whereas Atlanta's got all the pressure. I wish somebody other than Singer might have been going. I might have some interest in Kansas City. But with him on the mound and his struggles as of late, I'll be passing on this one.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. Hop below in the comments. Let us know how you'd maybe be looking to bet that game one and how that series shakes out as well. Can the Royals get it done, or do the Braves set themselves up in prime position to take the final wild card spot there as they face off against the Mets on Monday? Interesting way to look at it as we head down the pike here. All right, best bets here, gentlemen. Bryan, I'm going to throw it back right your way. The Texas Rangers taking on the LA Angels. Rangers, they've already locked in to be the first World Series champion since 2014 when the Red Sox went under 500 to go under 500 after hoisting that World Series trophy. They're taking on the Angels here today. Really not much to play for except pride here at the end of the season. Interesting pitching matchup in this one, as well as the Rangers are trying to maybe set up some playoff hope for next season with who they're sending. How are you looking to break this one down, Bryan?
Yeah, you would think with the sizable favorite that the Texas Rangers are today, anywhere from 140 to 148 favorite, with DeGrom on the mound. The problem is DeGrom, there's no reason for him to pitch a lot of innings here. They're just trying to show that he's fresh and he's able to get these in. But he's only pitched 3 innings in his other starts, so he's not going to go at the most 4 innings here, and he's that big of a favorite. Now, obviously, if you take a look at the ERAs on the season, I mean, DeGrom's been great in the limited innings he's had. And Detmer's, if you're taking a look at the actual ERA, he comes in with a 6.67 ERA, 1.54 whip. But if you take a look at his expected ERA, it's only 4.14. He has probably had the worst pitching luck in Major League Baseball this season when it comes to his starts. And if you take a look at his last 2 starts, he's gotten bombed. He went two innings against Houston, give up 7 earned runs, 5 1/3 against the White Sox, give up 7 earned runs. So if you are what I do, and I try to put myself in the position of the player, there's got to be nobody in Major League Baseball that wants to get back out on the mound more than Reed Detmers in this one. So you're getting him as an underdog price. And in fact, I think this is a prove-it kind of game, prove-it kind of series for the Angels, because they were just swept by the Chicago White Sox, who could go down as the worst team in history. They just got swept 3 straight games. Now they're coming home, and they're facing a Texas squad who, as you mentioned, World Series winners last year, not even going to the playoffs here. For DeGrom to pitch 3 or 4 innings here, I think this is a huge advantage for the host, and I'll gladly take the Angels here. You've got a pitcher who has had much better success than what his regular ERA shows, and he's just gotten bombed 2 straight games. I love the situation. This is one of my better situations on the year. But then again, you got to go against 3 innings of DeGrom. So even if the Angels get shut out for those 3 innings, they still got 2/3 of a game to be able to pitch against the Texas bullpen. I think that's good enough to get a bet in here.
Man, it wouldn't be the final live first pitch edition if Bryan didn't come on with not one dog, but two dogs, and one of those dogs having fleas with the LA Angels. I love it, Bryan. Never change. Check the man out, wt.buzz/BL. Hell of a breakdown there. And yes, you hockey fans, it is a great time to buy because Bryan has been studying up. He'll be ready and rolling to go to cash for you, the clients. Give these guys a like while you're hanging out with us here as well. Steve, you want to take a look at the O's taking on the Twins? Twins, you can pretty much lock them up in the postseason, right? All they have to do is sweep the O's and then have the Royals or the Tigers get swept, and boom, they're in. So you're saying there's a chance here for the Twins as they take on the O's. The O's also made the Yankees wait a little bit longer than maybe some fans expected for their clinching party. Interesting one here for you, Steve. Let the folks know what you have locked and loaded as we head to this just loaded weekend here across all leagues, and let us know how we're betting this O's and Twins game.
Yeah, I mean, all the Twins had to do is not go 1-4 their last 5, 2-6 their last 8, and maybe they'd be in the playoffs, right? But we're going to talk about this game in one moment. Real quick, Bryan not only brought 2 dogs, but he also brought a cat. 2 dogs and a cat. That sounds like a children's cartoon series or a children's book. And also, real quick, that's okay. I knew it's two cat. It's like a moving company, right? 2 dogs and a cat. Isn't there like a moving company named that? I want to talk real quick about the Rangers. You perked my interest, so I looked up that Red Sox team that you mentioned, Dan, because I thought that was fascinating. In 2013, they won the World Series. They finished first, obviously, in their division. The year before that, they finished last in the AL East, 5th. Won the World Series, finished first in 13. They didn't bounce back. So, don't just think the Rangers are going to bounce back because they went 5th that next year, dead last, 71-91, by the way, after going 97-65. And then they were 78-84, dead last in the AL East again. So 2 straight years after that World Series, they finished last in their division. And then they finished first, lost in the divisional round those first 2 years, and then won the World Series again in 18. So we'll see what happens with that Rangers team next year. But interesting case study to see if history somewhat repeats or rhymes with Texas like it did for Boston. Let's look at a free play tonight in Major League Baseball. Orioles, Twins. The Orioles have clinched the wild card. The Twins are now 3 games out of the wild card after losing 4 of their last 5. It's do or die time. I don't just blindly play on must-win teams, but the Twins will have the motivation tonight. And I also think this could be a huge flat spot for the Orioles. Once again, nothing to play for, and they just got blown out 10-1 against the Yankees on Thursday yesterday after winning the first 2 games in New York. I think that was the series they were focused on. I think this will be a kind of a set it and forget it weekend in Minnesota. And I like the Twins for that reason, but I also like Minnesota tonight because of the pitching matchup. Huge edge with Lopez over Povich. In fact, Pablo Lopez is also in a bounce back spot. I always like to take good pitchers in bounce back spots. And the reason I say a bounce back spot is he had just been fantastic going back over the previous month. In fact, before a bad outing at Boston and Fenway last week, in which he gave up 7 runs, 9 hits in only 4 innings, and 2 home runs, by the way. He'd given up only 1 home run total in his previous 6 outings. He'd had shutouts in 4 of those 6 outings, going at least 6 innings or more. And he still has a 2.4 ERA since mid-August, even with that terrible start the other week. His ERA was about 2 before that. He's one of the better pitchers in baseball right now. Povich is not. 5.6 ERA on the season, 4.9 since mid-August. He's gotten slightly better, but he's still not any good. So I like the situational spot to fade the Orioles, and I like the starting pitching edge. You play the Twins here minus 155. You could play them run line minus 1.5 plus 130. Or I think the best option is the minus 1 run line, which is currently about a minus $1.15. And if you don't have a minus 1 run line, you can always make your own with half on the money line, half on the minus 1.5 run line. So however you cut it, I think the Minnesota Twins are the play tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern on Friday. If you'd like my official best bet tonight, I have a strong baseball best bet on a 31-12 run in baseball, and that includes 3 extra inning losses over the past week. Let that sink in. We've had 3 extra inning losses, and we're still on a 31-12 run. That's how good baseball's been this season. But don't forget about football. Number 1 this year in college football, 10-4 the last 2 weeks, NFL and college combined. Number 1 the last 2 seasons combined in college and pro football sides, ATS profits. And NBA starts in a few weeks. I'm number 1 the last 3 years in NBA profit. Yeah, maybe an all-sports subscription is a good idea. I know that's what you're thinking. And this is a great weekend to do it. You buy 3 months, you get the 4th month for free right now. No promo code needed. And oh yeah, check out a bonus free play for tonight in baseball as well. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, and get there quicker with that shortcut you see on the screen, wt.buzz/SM. While you're here on Wager Talk TV, like, subscribe, and comment below because I read all the comments and I reply back.
Yeah, as Steve pointed out there, guys, 90 days of all access at a discounted rate, and they're throwing on an extra 30 days. So that is 120 days of plays across all of these sports during the best time to bet. Hell of a deal that they're dropping over there at the Detroit office. You can get more details on it at wt.buzz. No code needed for that. You can go to your favorite cappers page right now, as Steve said, wt.buzz/SM for him. wt.buzz/BL will get you right to Bryan Leonard's page. Lock him in as NBA, NHL, obviously NFL, college football, and the postseason for MLB continuing. Great time to partner up with some experts here. Big thanks to everyone who's tuned in along the way, whether you're just joining us or you joined us all season long. We appreciate you tuning in. We make the content for you, and we appreciate you engaging with it. So keep those likes coming, keep those subscribes coming, folks, because even though we're done here on First Pitch, single game videos keep getting you that actionable info you know and love for free from the experts putting in the work for you. Appreciate you. For Bryan Leonard, for Steve Merril, I'm Dan Alexander, and we will see you next time. But don't go anywhere, folks. 30 minutes from now, Wager Talk Today on a football Friday, getting you all the info you need to bet the gridiron this weekend. Don't go anywhere. Stick around for that in college football today, with the A-team coming your way again this afternoon with Joe Ranieri and, of course, Bryan Leonard going to be joining the dais on that one. So don't go anywhere, folks. Hang out with us all day long. We'll keep cashing those tickets. Until then, everyone, best of luck, and we'll see you next time here on Wager Talk TV.